Come on, Twitch. Alright, we're live. I guess I will... Oop, that's popping up browsers. That's not what I want to do. I want to do this. There we go. So let's go ahead and tell the world. So, streaming game dev. Gonna do some kind of spaceship stuff. Excuse me. Where is the other thing I want? There it is. All right. So, I had a rough night and went to a convention today, so I am really tired. But we'll see how this looks. And basically where we were last time is we have it so that everything is talking. It's not very pretty, but we can at least see what's happening when we're doing these sorts of things. There are a lot of pieces left to this puzzle. For example, some of those pieces are, I have to let you build these ships. Another piece is you have to be able to see the crew. I don't have their faces in this right now. We also have to pop up the crew list properly when they needs to be popped up. Right now, Alice, Bob, and George are hard-coded as our crew members, which is not really what we want. And we were going to need some kind of crew selection tool for the various ships we send out and all that stuff. But you know what? Before we do any of that, I think we have to implement the mission system, because if there's no way for us to go out on a mission, then there's no point to building things or choosing crew. Just seeing this thing dancing here is not going to be of any use to anybody. So what we're going to need to do is build the part of the game which lets you go on missions. And when you do go on missions, it needs to be able to tell you how well you've done. Now, there are two kinds of missions. There's marketing missions, and then there are adventure missions. So marketing missions would be you've built this ship and you want to tell everybody how well it works. So you go on a specific mission that has very specific parameters, lasts a specific amount of time, you do specific things. And then the adventure missions are when you want to showcase the ship and, prove that it's cool. You can just send your crew out on arbitrary long missions, however long you want them to be, and let them run in the background while you do other things. And in those cases, it'll just be a steady stream of lightweight sci-fi adventuring as they plow through space. And those are the two kinds of missions that I want this game to include. So I think first we're going to go ahead and try the marketing missions, the pre-baked missions that you do to prove how well your ship works. In order for those to exist, we're going to need to be able to rate your performance in those missions, but I think what we'll do for now is we will try to figure out a way to make those missions exist. So for now, what we're going to do is we're actually going to go ahead and pop up a new scene entirely, which we're just going to call a missions scene. And later on, we'll figure out the best way to make our missions scene work out. But for now, we're just going to create a panel and create ourselves a little interface for choosing marketing missions. Of course, first things first, there's only going to be one marketing mission because we're just testing the idea out. And basically what we're going to need to do is have a list of all the missions that you can go on and let you choose which one you want to go on. And that means we're going to need a large vertical scrolling area. So we're going to go ahead and create that. To do that, we're going to need a panel that is hooked to the top left of the screen. And we're going to just arrange this so that it is like this. And then what we're going to do is give it a specific width, like say 300. I guess more like 400. The height is not going to exist. What we're going to have is a vertical layout group, and we're going to combine that. Well, let's put in some... And we're going to combine that with a layout content fitter. with a vertical fit that is preferred size. No, that's a horizontal fit. There we are. Make this wide again. There we are. And this will be our list of all possible missions. Inside that, we'll create new panels like so. These are going to be content, but I don't think we need to specify that they're content. I think we can just manually say that they're, 100 units tall or something like that. Over here, we'll tell it to be the correct width, like that. And then this will be a mission. And what we'll need to do is add in a some kind of, you know what I'm thinking here. We need to have a content window that actually is a tight fit. So we're going to go ahead and duplicate this all possible missions and put it inside of itself like so. And then this will be all possible missions mask. Come on. And this will be all possible missions content. And this is not going to have a vertical layout group or a content size fitter. Instead, it's going to be a specific size. Like that. When we add in the mask component, we'll be able to make it so that the things inside don't show when they scroll off the bottom of the screen. But we're also going to need a scroll, what is it called? As trying to remember the name of the thing that lets you move content around. Scroll rect, there it is. And the content is obviously going to be the content. It doesn't need any horizontal scrolling, so that's just fine. And the viewport is our self, which is automatic. If we leave it empty, it's just going to stay that way. So what we've got here is a mask that is not quite the right size. So we're going to just use this to make it the right size. There we go. And we'll hide the mask graphic because we don't need to see it. Here in the mission, if we duplicate this a lot, you can see how it goes off the bottom of the screen. And if we hit play, we can scroll it. Woohoo! Exciting stuff. Now the problem with this approach is that the scrolling and the concept of buttons don't go well together. So basically, Unity has always had a problem where the events don't quite line up depending on what event things you use, and we'll have to be careful of that and test it out. Still, this mission is supposed to be a button, so let's go ahead and add in a button. There we go. And we're going to go ahead and make the highlighted a little bit more obvious so that it's a lot less generic, like that. That'll do. We're going to leave it with no navigation because I think that's what causes the thing to screw up. But then if we duplicate a lot of them and hit play, the clear thing we need to test is whether or not, yeah, okay, so we can actually move them while also clicking them, which is fine. And what we're going to want to do is have each of these missions contain enough information for you to choose one that based on what you'd like, but then it's going to pop up an overall description of the mission over here on the right. So for that, we're going to need another panel, which is going to be full size, but blocked off on the right. Left, rather. There we are. Like so. And that will automatically scale to the correct size for what we need. We're going to just put in a couple of little borders there. And then this is going to be the mission summary. So there we go. We'll add in some UI elements just for knowing what the heck's going on. That's not how you spell name. This text we'll put on the top like so. We will make it best fit, and we will make it a particular size and shape. So like 10, -25, 10, and 50, like that. And we'll center the text, and we'll move it to the bottom, like this. And we'll want to move this down a little bit further. I think if we make this, there we go, just make this -10. There we are. And that'll give us the name that we need. And then we'll put it in another panel, like so. And we'll just drag this until it is the right size. like so. And then offset it. And we'll make it opaque. And add in here all of the mission data. In addition to the mission data, we're also going to have a button that lets us launch the mission. So I guess what we'll do is we'll put that in here. There are a lot of options as to where to put it, but I think it's okay if it's inside. So we'll just put in a button. Yep. And just lock it down there, and then call that launch. Capital L. By the way, I'm being particular about how they're named because I'll be using a UI binder which uses names to match things to fields and functions. So within the mission data, we're also going to need a text box. Might need several depending on how we decide to do it in the long run, but for now we'll just use one. And that's going to be a little bit larger text so that it's easy to read, and we'll just call this description, or just desk. There we go. So that's going to tell you what sort of mission you've got. And what we're going to want to do is make it so that when you choose a mission, this gets overridden. And when you don't have a mission, most of it goes away. This mission data will go away, and the name will be like choose mission or something. But we need to have over here in the panels the actual same basic setup for the mission summary. So we're just going to put this text box up in the corner like so. And as before, 10, 10, 10, and best fit. And we'll make it darker. And center it. You know what? I don't like it centered on this. We're going to leave it off to the side there. And we're going to want to have another text box. This one's called name. And this one is going to be called short desk. And this one's going to be long desk. Short desk is not quite the same field because it's not in the same spot and it's not the same size. And we'll just, there we go. And then this name text would do a little bit better if it was a little bit further over, like 20. Just so that it doesn't feel quite so forced. And then these, I think we're going to want to center it like that, just so that it doesn't feel quite so silly. But we're going to need to actually have missions and shit, so let's go ahead and build that. In order for this to work, we're going to need to have some sort of mission object. We don't even have a mission script, so I guess that's what we'll do right now. And we'll create a new field, a new folder for it. And all of our various mission-related scripts will go in here. So here's a mission. It has a name already. We're going to have a public string short desk and long desk. And those are going to be both multi-lines. For now, the only other thing we need is public void launch. Debug.log, don't know how to launch missions. And this is just all placeholder right now because we're wiring together the UI before we even wire together the code for how to actually do this stuff. And sometimes I'll wire them together in the opposite order and I'll do the stuff that works before I create the UI. But for this, I think that the opposite approach is best. So now that we have missions, where do we put them? Well, there are a lot of options. We could put them here on this mission object. We could make this mission our actual mission object. Now, a lot of people will tell you that's a bad idea, but in this case, this is the only place that they're going to exist. We're not going to need to keep track of them in any other way. The only exception to that being that if we load up a new scene, we need to have a link back to this mission after all, so maybe that's not the case. We'll go ahead and create just empty data objects and stick the missions on them. So we'll just go ahead and do that right here. Later on, we'll turn them into prefabs so that when we link them, we won't have any problems keeping links to the prefabs when we unload the scene. So this is going to be our mission system. There we are. Just drop this here. And we'll just say test short and really long test with lots of info. Hey, this is a 10-year mission. Blah, 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 blah. That'll do. So what we'll do up here in the mission panel is we'll drop in a UI binder, like so, and we'll drop the test mission in as the target, and that will work pretty well. The only other thing we're going to need is some method of when we click, we're going to want to pop this over to here. For that to happen, we are going to need to have a new kind of object, new kind of class. There are two things to consider here. One is we could make it so that this understands what's going on, and the other is we can make it so that this understands what's going on. I think making this understand is a little bit easier for us in ways that we'll get to in a minute here. So if we go over into our missions, we're going to have a mission briefing, which we'll just call mission UI, because that is the standard naming convention I've been using. And we'll drop the mission UI here, and we're also going to drop a UI binder here. The UI binder will end up binding to the same mission that we click on, but in order for that to work, this mission UI has to be built to do it right. So for that, what we're going to do is we're going to put in a new function, public void mission. Why is that not available? It should be here. Target mission. Oh, I know why. Public mission, target mission. There we are. We got public void set mission, mission target. And then we say target mission equals target. And then we're also going to go ahead and set this up so that it is a... so the problem with this is that I want to use a getter and a setter, but I don't think I can without having Unity barf. We'll see here. We'll try it out. And then we say UI binder B equals get component UI binder, and B.target equals target mission. We're going to need to say require component type of a UI binder. There we go. And if we take a look at the UI binder, we're going to need to make it update every frame. Well, we don't have to, actually. We can actually make it so that instead of updating every frame, we just call refresh right here. There we are. That'll do. Because the mission's not going to change every frame. It's only going to change when we set it. All right, so now what we need to do is set this mission up, click, and have it drop the correct mission into our mission summary. The problem with this is that when we do this, here it is, set mission. You can see how I don't have the option to have mission, no, target mission, there it is. Either way, what we've got to do is we've got to have this pass a mission along. We don't know what mission we are currently set up to do, which is not great. So what we're going to need to do is actually change this to a different kind of setup. So instead of having a set mission target, we're going to have game object container, mission container. And we're going to add in some comments here. We'll accept any game object with a mission or UI binder with a link to a mission. And so here what we're going to want is to grab the mission if we can find it. So mission m equals mission container dot get component mission. If m, then we just set it, target mission equals m, return. Otherwise, we need to start searching for something else. UI binder b equals mission container dot get component UI binder. And this is a really brute force way to do it. I don't really recommend you do it this way, but I want to keep things simple without having to have a specific mission UI just to map this. So we're just brute forcing it. Later on, we'll probably go back and replace this because it's a little bit too brute force, and I think we'll end up having it be a substantially more streamlined approach. Debug.log error. Could not find mission to assign when passed mission container.name. All right. So with this in mind, we really did end up doing something that I don't think we need to do. Okay, so mission UI is what we've got over here. But the same mission UI can be stuck over here if we know what we're doing. The difference being that the mission UI over here will get set. Okay, so yeah. Sorry, I'm thinking it through, and I'm not thinking it through ahead of time, so I'm ending up screwing it up a little bit. But basically, we can use the same mission UI element for both of these. All we have to do is switch out what I just made for something stupid. This would be a mission UI. And this will be mission UI, mission container.target. Mission. There, that's more like it. I knew I was forgetting something. I was like, I designed this to be smooth. I don't remember why I didn't manage to figure it out, but that's just because I'm an idiot. There we are. So now what we can do is we can drop the test mission in here, and we hit play. And we should see it pop up. Yep. And now what we need to do is set up this button to pass the mission UI over to the other mission summary. Oh, this is no longer target mission. It is now mission UI set mission. There it is. There we go. Now that way we won't have to keep reassigning the actual mission. We can just assign it to the mission UI and it'll propagate properly, regardless of what we do, which will be a nice, easy way to handle it. Boom, there we are. Perfect. And if we click launch, it says, don't know how to launch missions. Everything is wired up. That is the UI we need. And I'm going to sit here and wipe my nose. Great stuff. And what we can do now is we're going to want these missions to pop up based on the list of missions in our missions category. And to do that, we're going to need a special mission list UI, which is something I don't really want to have, but I haven't figured out how to make one that's not a one-off. I think that there must be a way, but I haven't really figured it out yet. I mean, I can do like a generator, like a factory, but unfortunately, if I do that, then I have to have a factory. I have to have two factories, one for the UI container and one for the actual class underneath, or something similar. I'm thinking about it. If I make a generic UI setup, let's try making one. It's going to be a first. I'm going to try it on camera and fail and bore everybody to tears, and that's what I'm known for. So let's try it. We'll go ahead and create a generic list UI generic list creation, generic list creator, generic UI list. That's what I want to call it. And we're going to drop it in the generic scripts folder because it doesn't need to be in the missions folder. It's not mission specific. So we're going to go ahead and describe it because we're doing something a little complicated. Generic UI list takes a so the issue here is that it takes a list of a specific mono behavior. But the problem is that what we really want to do is get all components within a parent that have a specific mono behavior. And to do that, there's no way to tell Unity via the inspector to have a class as an argument. So we're going to have a member of the list as our anchor. Takes a member of a list as an anchor and creates prefabs. No, wait, we don't have to do that. Generic UI list takes a parent object and a list, a UI prefab, and using the UI prefab target field searches for all children in the parent that have that class within them and creates a prefab for each, adding it to the content transform. All right, so public transform content, public transform parent object or list parent, and then we are going to have a public prefab, public game object UI prefab. And now what we're going to need to do is get all of the objects that fit this prefab's target field. So public string target field within UI class. There we go. So when we do this, we're going to want this just to be its own little function. So public void init. And what we'll do is we'll go through and grab all of the right kind of class. But in order to do that, we need to grab the right kind of class. I'm going to close this all down for a minute while I think about the best way to do it. The problem with C# in this case is that it's a little bit finicky in terms of passing classes around. So, I mean, you can pass objects around very easily, but passing classes is a little more difficult. Just because I can't remember how to do it. But basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using this same reflection setup that we're using in UI Binder. So we're going to just cut and paste some UI Binder code. And what we're doing is in UI Binder, we go through and we look for all of the classes for anything that matches a given name. So if we take a look, here it is. We've got get field and get property, and these are the things that we need. So we're going to copy that and put it over here in a public void find class. This is just temporary because I just have to work it out before we do anything else. So basically, we pass in a type here, and the type target.getType. Yeah, so that should be fairly straightforward. We'll just put that in here. We'll work out the logic before we split it up into the flow. So I didn't expect it to barf there. Oh, there's no UI. We'll figure this out real quick here. Basically, there is a field in our UI prefab. There we go. So then what we need to do is this is all within the UI prefab. So the field info UI prefab. I don't know why it's not letting me do that. But basically what we're doing is we're going into the UI prefab and we're finding the field with this name. The UI prefab is an object. This UI prefab can't be a game object. It has to be a mono behavior. There we are. That's better. So within the UI prefab, that's an object, and we need the class. So we're just going to grab the class, And then we're going to get the field from the class. So what we're doing is if it's a field, we grab it as a field. If it's not a field, we'll grab it as a property using the same basic setup. So this will grab our field from the mono behavior for the UI prefab. If it's not null, then it will figure out what the class of that field is. And if we take a look, you can see that it's got a get type. So type UI target equals null. I don't know if I can give a null type. We'll find out. So we'll just say UI target, no, come on, equals fi.getType. And I think that'll work. We'll find out real shortly here. So here, we're going to put in an else. Or we can just make it, hold on, we'll just pass it in like this. Type find UI class, UI target class. So when we do that, what we're going to do is we're going to pass it back. So return fi.getType. We don't need this. Otherwise, we do the exact same thing. UI prefab.getType, get property, but this one's for properties rather than fields. Same basic setup though. Return pi.getType. But I don't think this is the right. I think this is not going to work. GetType will tell us that it's the type of property info. What I really want to do is get the type property type. There it is. That's what I want, not the not get type, because that'll just return that it's a field. There we are. So lastly, we'll just return null if we can't find it. So here in init, we're going to go ahead and grab that type UI target equals find UI target class. If UI target equals null, why is it erroring there? No, that shouldn't error. That's fine. Debug.log error cannot populate generic UI list, no field or property named target field within class. Return. So otherwise, we're going to go ahead and put in a debug.log populating UI list with type target field within class. There we go. That's not right. It's just UI target. All right, so this is us testing it. And what we're going to want to do is put in a little bit of a context menu init. And we're also going to have context menu. Yeah, Mifaz, it's something I made. It's he says, what the heck is UI Binder? It's UI Binder is what I created. You can find it on Itch.io. But it basically just takes all the names that you give your UI elements, like your text boxes and your buttons, and it looks through their target, and it says, well, the target class has that field or that function, so I'll just bind it. So you don't have to write custom UI code for absolutely everything, right? Otherwise, it would be a real pain in the ass. I don't think we're actually going to have this. That's fine. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to start to create what we need to do this as a test. So we'll create a UI. There we are. Any errors? No errors. Good. We're going to drop that generic UI list. Oh, that's not the right one. There it is. Going to drop that right here. The content is this. The list prefab, it doesn't exist yet. We'll get to that. And the list parent is this. The UI prefab doesn't exist yet, but it's this. We'll just drop it in here for the second. That's a mission. That's not what I want as the first object. We want the mission UI as the first object. Not really sure why that didn't work. Let's try that again here. Yeah, that's right. So then what we'll do is we will get the target field. What do we call it? The mission is target mission. We're going to actually just change that to target. save. Mifa says, don't know what the target is, though. Well, that's the thing. You can pass anything as the target. So if you pass in a mono behavior, it will map. You can pass in any mono behavior. So in this case, for example, the UI binder is bound to the test mission that we're going to be using. And because of that, it will automatically search through this test mission object for anything that matches any of the names. So name and short desk will automatically work. I think I made a video about it. If it's not clear, we can make it more clear later on. But either way, now we've got a target object. So it should be possible for us to actually test this out. Let's try it. And there you can see populating UI list with type mission. So that means that it's all working exactly as planned. How rare. So what we've got here is a setup where the generic UI list has correctly found the target that we're looking for. And that means that what we need to do now is find all instances of that class within our list. So we'll just go ahead and say, I don't know if this works. I don't think I can just say list UI target like this. I think that's going to barf. Yeah. How do I pass it when it's a type? That's a newbie. I don't know. Let me go ahead and look that up. C# generic list pass type. How to pass a generic list as a parameter without knowing its type. How to generic types with reflection. This is probably it. No, this is not it. I just want to create a list of the correct type. I think that it's in this, but it's so opaque that I can't tell. No, I think that that's not it. Well, one thing I can do is I can have it pass into a function that's got a generic. Maybe that'll help. No, it's going to be the same issue. Can I do it like this? I don't think I can do it like this. Just as a wild test, can I do that? No. Variable test is declared but never used. That's fine. I don't care about that. I want this error. What's this error? It's a variable but uses a type. But how do I get the type out of it? I haven't had to do this particular thing in C# before, so is it base type? No, it's still barfing. It doesn't like me passing in any kind of variable here. My guess is that I'm not supposed to create variables like that due to a compile time, yeah. Mifaz is passing me some data here. All right, so it looks like I can't do it like that, but the problem is that in order to pass it, well, actually, I can do it. Hold on. Mono behavior array generic list equals list parent dot get components in children, and then we can actually pass it a type. Now, this has long since been replaced by the brackets, but passing it the type is handy in situations like this where we have a type variable, like so. And then we'll also grab the extras there. And this actually returns components rather than mono behaviors. I'm not sure if that's decent. So I don't know why this is barfing. Yeah, so it doesn't like the idea that it's... Just type it in as... So is that going to stop barfing? There we are. So that will get a list of everything. And I think we can just do it like this. It's not going to be too big of a deal. So for each component C in generic list. That's not for each, that's for ech. Then we'll just go ahead and create the things we need. Mifaz has been very helpful. He's talking about how he had a similar problem. I think I can just work around it like this. It's not that big a deal. But basically what we're going to want is mono behavior p equals UI prefab dot instantiate. No, I can't do it like that? Fine. Mono behavior dot instantiate. Yeah, that's fine. UI prefab. We want to put it into the content like so. Then what we're going to want to do is set the field or property. So public void set target, and then we're going to pass it a component. And then what we're going to do is this exact same stuff, except for this time we're going to be setting it rather than just getting it. So we'll just grab the field info for starters, and we're going to go ahead and say if fi does not equal null, then it's time to set that value. And we can say fi.setValue. I don't really know what the difference is between setValue and setValue direct, but I have a strange suspicious feeling I might have to use one or the other, and I'm not sure which is which. So it's the we can't set the target without passing the mono behavior. Hold on, mono behavior UI component target. And then we just pass it the target. But I don't know whether that'll cast automatically. I have a feeling that's going to barf. We'll find out. Either way, we then have to do the same thing for properties. Should be the same stuff. I can't do the set value. Have to do something. I can do the set value. And then we've got, oh, that's right. There's a whole bunch of weird stuff here. It wants to take an object index array. I'm not sure what's up with that. Can I just pass that null and call it a day? I think I can. All right, good. So I'm going to go just check UI binder and see whether or not that is something that I've had to do. Here's fetch from player prefs, where we get values, but we're going to want to have the set values. Yeah, so I pass it null. I guess I just pass it null all the time. That's fine. So in theory, this will work. It'll create all of the generic lists that we want. But before we create them, we're going to have to destroy all of the existing transforms. Not in list parent, in content. Because otherwise we'll just get duplicates all the time. So if application.running playing, playing. So if the application is playing, then destroy child.gameObject. Otherwise, destroy immediate child.gameObject. All right, if we do that, then it'll populate correctly so that we don't get duplicate entries all the time. But basically, we have to set the target here. So we'll pass it P, and then we'll pass it the component C. That should be enough to make everything work. Shall we try it out? Do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do. Grind, 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 and no problems. Great, so let's give this a shot. This here is in a bad spot. It's going to get deleted. So we're going to drop that in as a prefab. Nope, sorry, this. Boom, like that. Then we're going to delete it. And then here in the all possible missions, we're going to drop that in as the prefab, because otherwise we would delete it before we started to duplicate it, and that wouldn't work very well. Now we're going to go ahead and save, and then hit init. Test mission, test short. That's what I call perfect. Let's go ahead and create a couple more of these just to see whether or not this keeps up with the idea. And what I've just done is I've just created something cool. If you're not really a coder and haven't really been listening to me mumble on, what I've done is I've created a generic thing that will create any number of UI elements for your list. So if you have a UI element, just an arbitrary prefab for any kind of UI element that you need, you can connect it to this function, and it will automatically fill it up with however many things you happen to have. How great! That is wonderful, because I've created so many of these awful scripts, these crew list UIs and stuff like that. I don't think I have any in this function yet, or in this thing yet, but whenever you're creating this stuff, it's like, well, you've got to have the core class, and then you've got to have the UI class to display the core class, and then you've got to have the UI class to display a list of the core class, and I've just gone ahead and gotten rid of that third one, and that's nice. I like it. I think I might use it a lot. However, we do have a problem. The generic UI list is not completely working because the mission UI hasn't been set up correctly. What we need to do is set our name equal to the name of the value. There we go. Poof. And the reason we want to do that is just for clarity's sake, because otherwise we might get a little confused. So we'll just go and run it again. Ah, but it didn't work. You can see how it didn't clear it out. You know why it didn't clear it out? It's because we're using destroy immediate on a for each. I forgot about that. You can't do this one with a for each. You've got to do it with another method. So if application.isPlaying, do it with a for each like this. Else while content.childCount is greater than 0, destroy immediately content.getChild 0. That should work. Let's try it. Now let's save one more time just in case something goes catastrophic. Good, perfect. So now what we've got is we've got them named correctly, they're working properly, and if I hit play, these ones don't work. And now the reason for that is because I've made this into a prefab, but the problem with that is that the prefab can't be bound to another object in the scene. It just doesn't work. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to cheat hard and put that prefab back into the scene. So if I take this mission UI object and I dump it somewhere, like here, what I can do is, I don't even need to put it in I can put it out here where it's not even going to render. So what we can do is have this mission UI, then have the correct targeting set up. And then we'll just use a set mission UI. There we are. And what we can do is we can target this arbitrary thing that's just floating off in space doing nothing. And then if we run it, now when we look down here, these should all have the correct function. See? See? Works fine. So what we're doing is we're cheating by setting it up down here as just an off-the-cuff thing. So we're going to go ahead and actually put this inside of the all possible missions mask like this. And then we're just going to turn it off like this. And that way we'll be able to keep track of it. So we're going to call this mission UI in scene prefab, so that it doesn't get confused. And then what we're going to need is we're going to need to go into the mission UI script and make sure that we turn ourselves on. So if GameObject.active, if the game object isn't active, set it. That way we will turn ourselves on immediately, and we won't have to worry about whether or not the prefab is on or off. And then we'll try that one more time with, we'll just change the numbers here around so we'll get a little bit better result. Hit init. There we go. Everything works fine. Let's test and make sure that everything is in fact working fine. Yep, it's all working great. Da-da-da-dum. Ooh, that is a slow scroll we've got running there. I wonder why Unity has decided that my mouse wheel should scroll 1 pixel. That is amazing. We'll go ahead and set the scroll sensitivity to like 100. That's probably a little too much. So I'd try 10. There we go. Much better. All right, so now what we've got is a draggable list of missions that will automatically populate with our list of missions. This list of missions can either be an in-scene object like this, or it can be a prefab. And if it's a prefab, we can continue to pass those missions around even if we open a new scene. And that's the key here. We can actually keep these things as unloaded objects, they don't have to be in the scene. Basically, this turns them into scriptable objects, but they're not scriptable objects for reasons that we're not going to want to actually... We're never going to want a scriptable object for this because we want to be able to attach other mission-related things to this. And trying to keep track of that is kind of pointless if we've already got game objects, and game objects keep track of that shit just fine, so there's no reason for us to do it like a custom set of interfaces on our scriptable object. No reason for that. So we're going to leave them as game objects, but we're going to take them out of the scene and put them in as prefabs. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll drop the mission UI in there. Yep. And then we'll also drop the missions in there, like so. And then what we can do is we can point to the missions prefab instead. Oh, you know what we should do? We should actually just have this run when it wakes up. And we'll just clear all these objects out. Add a few more missions just for the sake of having some fun. Oh, that won't work because they aren't part of the prefab. So we'll save it. And then we'll hit play. Yay! Look at that. Everything works. I'm super happy about that, to the point where I am considering stopping and having some chocolate, because that's a nice reward for my brain, having done so well at thinking of a generic solution to a problem I've been re-implementing every single class. It's not even every single project. It's every single class. And now I don't have to do that ever again. That is great. I feel great. It's a shame that it's a little bit hard to describe to normal, people who aren't me, because if I was able to describe how to use it, I think it would be very useful to a lot of people. But how do you tell them? Because it's like, well, you need to have a UI class. And one of the fields within your UI class will point to another class. And we use that field to determine what classes we're looking for in the list. I'll think about if there's a good way to tell people how to use it. And if I can, I'll publish it. Otherwise, I won't. But it's super useful. Thank you very much for your time, everybody. I will see you on Wednesday. I am going to go ahead and call it a day here. I'm going to take a screenshot, so if you have any questions, this is a good time to ask them. You got maybe a minute left. And I think that today I might record a video about psychedelia and ancient evil gods and horrors, because there's some cool stuff to say about those. So Mifaz says, that bit did seem a bit complicated. I'm going to go ahead and go over it for my own sake as well as Mifaz's sake, just to make sure that I can talk about it in earnest. Basically, there are a couple of pieces. One piece is the list, and the list here contains an arbitrary number of objects that happen to have the class that we want, this mission class. So it's just a list of missions, right? And you can have as many as you'd like in this object. So this is just a list of missions, but it's like a game object full of missions. It's not like a class that contains a list of missions. So there's no need to create a custom class to contain your list of missions. You can just put them in a game object. And then what we have is a UI class that takes those kinds of objects as an argument here. So what we can do is by combining those two things, we can say, okay, well, this is the thing that we actually want to duplicate. We want to make n of these, as many of these as we need. And what we're looking to do is fill this field. And this field is of type mission, or it could be of type whatever. So we're going to go to the list, and we're going to look through the list, and we're going to find every single instance of this object, this class, and we are going to create a duplicate of this mission UI for it. So we're just going to take every single one of these test missions, and we are going to put them up as a UI element right here. But I'm not really sure. I mean, I'm not actually sure whether people even use the class UI setup in their games. I might be the only person who wants to do it like this, because I don't like having the UI code and the class code in the same bin. I like having them in separate bins. And that means that I always take my approaches of, this is the functional class and this is the display for that functional class. But if you don't do it like that, then this is useless. Well, in short, this takes a display class and it creates as many as it needs to actually display the class that those display classes contain. Boy, I don't think I'm being clear at all. But let's take a screenshot just for kicks, and then I will call it a day. Created a generic UI list system, so I never have to make a some class list UI ever populator ever again. And then we'll do the same thing on Twitter. All right, so with that all said and done, I think it's time for me to call it a day and have some candy. I will see you on Wednesday if you care to stop by. Bye.